Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Paranormal News. Tonight's article comes from express.co.uk, and the headline is Near Death Experience. Woman claims paranormal premonition saved my life. A near death premonition reportedly saved someone from being killed in a car crash, the survivor has claimed. It was written by Tom Fish, and it was published February 13th, 2021. A woman known only as Ramona M., to protect her anonymity, has recounted escaping from an accidental death after existing outside her body. Incredibly, she believes only a paranormal premonition immediately prior to the car crash gave her information that may have saved her life. Ramona recounted the apparent 2003 incident to Near Death Experience Foundation, NDERF site. She said, "I was trying to get home, running late for curfew, and driving home on country roads late at night. It had been raining, so the roads were slippery and it was extremely foggy. A car was tailgating me and it made me nervous, so I sped up and kept speeding up. I still felt like the car was following too closely. On an S-turn, I felt the back end of the car coming up around. I had just had a driver's training course that taught me exactly how to correct this. However, at this point, she believes she clearly left my body and acquired a higher state of consciousness that may have resulted in saving her life. She said, before I could act, I heard a powerful voice and felt like I didn't have a choice in what to do. At the same time, I also had a most peaceful sense of surrender come over me. The voice told me, 'Take your hands off the wheel.' Time slowed down as the back end of her car came around. It felt like I was up above and watching the car. In slow motion, the back end of the car came around and shot across the road. The back end crashed into a hydro pole. It was at this point Ramona believes everything seemed to be happening at once, or time stopped, or lost all meaning. She said time slowed down, stopped, to the point I left time and space. The next moment the woman is fully aware of, she had mysteriously survived the potentially fatal accident. She said, I awoke to find that the car was entirely crunched up around the pole. The pole had torn through the entire car and was now beside me. The entire car was totaled, with the exception of my little square driver's seat. I was completely unscathed. The rest is hazy. How I got out, how the ambulance and fire truck came. I remember smelling gas everywhere. A woman approached me, but there was never a sign of the car behind me, or if it even existed. However, despite such compelling first-hand evidence, the overwhelming majority of scientists believe near-death experiences are in fact associated with increased brain activity in extraordinary circumstances. One prominent study saw University of Michigan researchers induce cardiac arrest in rats while simultaneously monitoring their brain activity. They found a significant surge in brain activity in the final few seconds of the rodents' lives. Professor Jimmo Borjigan said, this study performed in animals is the first dealing with what happens to the neurophysiological state of the dying brain. We reasoned if near-death experience stems from brain activity. Neural correlates of consciousness should be identifiable in humans or animals, even after the cessation of cerebral blood flow. The prediction that we would find some signs of conscious activity in the brain during cardiac arrest was confirmed with the data. And that is the end of this article. Now, that doesn't surprise me at all, honestly, that they would find excess brain activity at the point of death, because I imagine your body is absolutely freaking out right at the moment of death. It's doing everything it can to stay alive. Since the brain is the central computer of the body and kind of controls everything, I would imagine you would have increased brain activity. I don't think that proves that near-death experiences aren't real. I think that's nonsense to say that. As far as this experience that this woman had, it's kind of interesting that she said that a voice said, get your hands off the wheel, let go of the wheel. And then the car started spinning around and she felt like she was outside of her body. And when she came back, the car is wrapped around the pole, essentially. It's all crushed to hell. The pole is sitting in the passenger seat beside her, and she's fine. So whatever that voice was, it would seem guided the car so that it would crash in such a way that the little area that she was sitting in would remain perfectly intact and fine, and she wouldn't suffer any kind of catastrophic physical damage or anything. She would be fine. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, that voice, was it God? Was it Jesus looking out for her? Was it a voice of maybe her dead mom or dad or something like that, a friendly spirit watching out for her? That's really up to interpretation, because the only clue we have is that she said when she left her body, she felt this overwhelming sense of peace and surrender overcome her. So that would imply to me that it was some sort of benevolent entity, whether it was God or whether it was one of her relatives that had passed that were looking out for her. Whatever it was, she felt perfectly at ease and at home with it, and felt a sense of surrender, which means that she felt like it was safe for her to let go and not have to be threatened or feel threatened or worry about whatever was going on. She felt fine, that she could just let it go. Everything was cool. So that to me tells me that it was something that was benevolent and something that did not put off any sort of sense of danger or dread or anything like that to her. It's an extremely interesting story, extremely cool story. I have no reason to doubt this woman. There's no reason to say that it didn't happen. Now, whether it was a real voice or just some sort of fantasy in her head, who knows? But I don't see why it would be a fantasy in her head. That doesn't make any sense either to me. Why would she imagine all of this stuff right before, as she's having an accident? Who knows? Maybe she hit her head. That could be. But she seemed to be perfectly fine. The telephone pole was sitting beside her in the car. So to me, there's no evidence that points to the idea that this woman is not telling the truth. To me, it seems like a perfectly plausible and accurate description of what she saw and what happened in her mind. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Do you believe this woman, or do you think that she bonked her head and started seeing things? It's up to you to decide. If you do believe her, what do you think the voice was? Do you think that was God talking to her? Or do you think that was like the voice of a relative that had already passed that was watching out for her? What do you think that it was? There's a couple clues in the story, like I said, but it didn't flat out tell us that she believed that the voice belonged to this thing or this person. It doesn't tell us that. So it's really up for our interpretation. So I'd like to know down in the comments section what you guys think about it, what you think the voice was. As always, thank you for all the support that you give me. Thank you for hanging out for another video. I really appreciate you, and I love you, and I will catch you on the next one. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do I. Bye-bye.